Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time to preview Thursday's Europa League tie against Lazio. I'm joined by Shawn McIntosh from the Laziali. Shawn, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, good. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. First of all, I just want to start with a bit about Lazio's season. How have they started the Serie A season? Since I sent you these questions over, I've actually read that it's the worst start for 8 seasons. So has it been perceived as a little bit underwhelming from the Lazio side of things?
Yeah, so we currently sit at 7th in the table. Certainly our objectives this season, our president, Claudio Lotito, hasn't been shy about it, but it's to finish in the top 4 spot and solidify Champions League. When you look at where we sit in the table, by all stretch of the imagination, it's been pretty underwhelming. So I think right now us Laziali a little bit frustrated. I think when you look at our performances, pretty topsy-turvy. I think the one thing we know about Lazio, the only consistency is that we are inconsistent. So in terms of your quality of play, it's a bag of nuts. You never know what you're going to get with us. So currently it's a little bit of a disappointment. I've recently been asked to give us a grade. If I was grading us on a scale of A to F, I'd look at us as perfectly average at a C. So there's some moments that we play some A+ football, but there's certainly a lot of moments where there's a lot left to be desired.
Yeah. Would you say there's any pressure on Inzaghi just now, or is his job pretty safe for the moment?
It changes week to week. I think our last match was against Atalanta. A ton of pressure in that match. That's honestly the club that we are chasing. Atalanta finished in the Champions League spot last year ahead of us. So huge match this past weekend. We started the first half down 3-0. I would have said if we would have continued that in the second half and lost that match, I think there would have been a ton of pressure on Simone Inzaghi. We ended up pulling out a pretty thrilling 3-3 draw. But that result may have glossed over some of the problems. So,
some dodgy penalties in there.
Yeah, there were some tough, tight calls, but look, at the end of the day, I think the team showed a little bit of resilience. But at the end of the day, I think Claudio Lotito has been very vocal about the objectives. Anything short of that, I think, puts Simone Inzaghi on the hot seat.
Okay. Moving on to the group then. When the group was drawn, obviously with ourselves, Rennes and Cluj, from a Lazio point of view, was that seen as a tough group? Obviously, we all sort of considered Lazio to be the favourites, being the pot 1 team and probably being the biggest club from the biggest league. But how was the group draw viewed from a Lazio side of things?
I think we were, for the most part, pretty content. There's certainly some groups out there that are tougher. But I think all in all, when you look at our group, I think we were pretty happy with it. There's certainly some easier groups out there. We certainly respect the clubs that are in our group. You look at Celtic, you guys are having a great season right now on top of the table and in league play. And obviously you guys come with a huge brand and a ton of awareness globally. So I think there's some respect and certainly we view it as a challenge. But I think we were overall pretty happy with the draw that we got.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. Like how are Celtic viewed? I ask people this a lot, like supporters of other clubs and stuff, like because we, being Celtic supporters, we know how big the club is, but from outsiders looking in, I think Scottish football gets a lot of disrespect. So how are Celtic viewed as opponents for Lazio? Is it still, obviously we come with the big history in European football and stuff, and it's Celtic Park's notoriously a tough place to visit, but is that how it's seen from Lazio?
Yeah, absolutely. Both from I'd say in Italy and from Laziali, and certainly globally. And me residing in the United States and having worked in Major League Soccer, I know there's a ton of respect that comes with Celtic and the club, the fans, the rich history. That certainly doesn't go away. You look at clubs that are rich in tradition, like AC Milan, right? That history, the respect doesn't go away just because of any sort of challenges. Currently. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, and your guys play and at least where you guys fit in the table. And I'm not a Scotland expert on your league, but I do know where you guys sit in the table, and there's a lot to be respected in that and the history and the turnout and the way that you guys produce young players. So certainly a ton of respect on our end. I think it'll be a challenging match. And, at this moment, you guys currently sit atop the table. So,
yeah. Coming on then to how Lazio set up, they usually play a 3-5-2, So do you expect them to come to Celtic Park and play on the counter attack, or do you think they'll come out a bit more? Is that their style usually away from home in Europe? Would they play in the counter?
So yeah, fully expect a 3-5-2. I'd say early in Simone Inzaghi's tenure with Lazio, he was a lot more open to changing up his formation. We saw it a lot in his first year, but the past 2-3 seasons, he's pretty much stuck to a 3-5-2. I don't see any reason why he would change that for this match. In terms of style of play, very similar to the results that we see. Pretty inconsistent. There are matches that when we face smaller clubs and clubs that like to bunker down and play a lot more behind the ball, we're a lot more possession based. We tend to struggle a lot of times when we own possession. I think our best style of play is when we are playing on the counter. I think we come to play when we play bigger clubs, when we play clubs that like to attack. I think we find the gaps, we find a lot of space. We've got the players to play on the counter. So when it's a lot more freestyle football on both sides, I think that's when Lazio's at their best. And I think the second half of the match against Atalanta really showed that both teams were moving up and down the pitch, and Lazio was able to counter. So I think that's what I hope to see. I'd throw the question back to you on your style of play and what does Celtic tend to bring when they're playing a little bit bigger clubs? Are they more of an open team? Are you guys playing on the counter, possession based?
Well, I think it's changed a lot this season. Under Brendan Rodgers last season, I think we were a lot more expansive in terms of we wanted to go away, and regardless of who we're playing, we wanted to play in a certain way. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers has a very distinctive style of play. He likes to keep possession and play through the thirds, and domestically for us, that's very risk averse, because obviously most teams are happy to come and play Celtic and just sit deep and defend, and we can keep the ball. But when we tried to do that in Europe, it backfired a lot because we come up against teams who are much better. They just have much more quality than we do. They're quicker, they're stronger, they can move the ball a lot better, and we really struggled with that. This season, though, I think Neil Lennon is a lot more pragmatic. I think we've seen when we went away to Rennes in the first match day in the Europa League, we didn't seem under pressure. Notoriously, Celtic, when they play away from home in Europe, the home team is having a lot of chances. We're careless in possession, but we didn't have any of that. So I think under Neil Lennon, we're happy to be a little bit more practical, if you like. But at home, there is always an onus on us to try and attack and to be the aggressor. And I'm curious to see how we'll approach Thursday's game in terms of that.
Yeah, and I think playing against a team that's aggressive certainly plays to some of our advantage. I think, again, to my point earlier, we play on the counter. I think we thrive on that. We've got players with some pace that can move the ball and can certainly strike. But we'll see. It could change the way we come out. We've been notorious playing a little bit differently, and we can be a shell of ourselves. So I think what I do know about Lazio is we never really know what we're going to get. So until, I'd say the first 5 minutes of the match is going to determine really everything.
Yeah. The key men for you guys as well, obviously, Ciro Immobile. He's scored, I think, 9 goals in 8 games this season.
Yep.
So he's in really good form. Other than that, Milinkovic-Savic. I see Correa and maybe Luis Alberto. There's a bit of doubt about them for this game.
Yep. Yeah, I would, what I do expect is a little bit of turnover. Lazio has a big match this weekend in Serie A against Fiorentina. So both of those clubs are really fighting for a spot in Europe. There's a cluster of clubs between Torino, Roma, Lazio. Cagliari is actually up there in the standings. So there's a lot of huge matches this weekend. I think you're going to see Inzaghi turn his attention to this weekend in the way that he puts out his lineup on Thursday. So I fully expect Ciro to actually rest. I would expect Caicedo to play. I know in the most recent training, they were trying out the pairing of Correa and Caicedo. So I think you'll see that as far as the starting lineup. I fully expect one of the midfielders, whether it's Alberto or Milinkovic-Savic, to sit. I'd lean more on Alberto looking to rest. He's looked a little bit tired. He's played very, very well this season. And then I expect some of our younger guys to get thrown in. Cataldi came in the second half of the match against Atalanta. He was a big reason why we saw a new team in the second half of that match. I expect he would get rewarded with a start. So fully expect to see him. And then I'd even be I would not be shocked if we saw Lukaku. Lukaku
Jordan
was actually
Lukaku, yeah.
Jordan Lukaku was actually set to enter the match against Atalanta before Lazio ended up scoring a couple goals. Simone kind of rescinded that substitution and went elsewhere. But he was set to enter the match, which would have been his first appearance this season. I fully expect to see him playing that left wing role and substituting and sitting Lulic. Lulic is a veteran, had a lot of miles on his legs, so I fully expect him to sit this match in preparation for Fiorentina and perhaps see a surprise appearance by Lukaku.
Okay, that brings me on nicely then to talk about what are some of the weaknesses maybe in the Lazio team. I'd read somewhere else that maybe that sort of left-hand side of defence with Radu and Lulic. I know you've said maybe Lukaku will come in, but maybe they've got a lot of experience, but maybe not so much, a lot of miles in the legs, as you said. So is that maybe somewhere that we can exploit, and what are the other weaknesses that Lazio have?
Yeah, absolutely. Our biggest weakness is just inconsistency. It's mental. It's putting together a full 90 minutes of strong attacking football. I think we are prone to mistakes, an area certainly Celtic can exploit. When there's one mistake, the team tends to get a little bit rattled. So it's really on the opposition to push forward and attack when they notice some of those sloppy mistakes. I think at the end of the day, our especially on the left side, we are a more between Lulic and Radu. Both of them have played a ton of football in their careers. Lulic especially can't necessarily at this point in his career go the full 90 minutes. So even when he starts, you can expect some sort of a substitution or change deep into a match. He's certainly prone to being attacked. And then I think it just really depends what the center midfield position looks like. Lucas Leiva, is one to clean up a lot of mistakes for us. So if we see him not in the match and you see the likes of Cataldi, I think we're prone to leaving a lot of space open in the midfield because our midfielders are so attack heavy. You see the likes of Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto playing so far up with Correa and Immobile that it tends to open a lot in that central midfield. Our center midfield, typically Leiva is left alone. So I'd be a little bit concerned if we don't see Leiva and it is a Cataldi, that he would be left on an island. I see those being opportunities for Celtic to pounce on.
Okay. Before we round up then, how do you see it going on Thursday?
The cop-out answer, the easy answer is a draw. Simply because I don't know what Lazio will show up. I don't know what the lineup looks like. I know we create a lot of chances. So another area for us where we've got to improve on is finishing those chances. So I fully expect to create a lot of chances. Caicedo does well to play off of a strike partner. If he is our lone attacker in place of Cheeto, I'm a little bit concerned. But, I would say a 1-1 draw would be fair.
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals. I think if you see, obviously, Lazio's game at the weekend, a lot of goals. I think we are going to attack. I think we will attack at least some point in the game. So I think we'll be aggressive and try and score goals as well. So I think we could be in for a great game. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Shawn. That's great. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, and best of luck on Thursday.
Yes, absolutely. Cheers.